If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. Now, I apologize for last week. I had a little business deal that I had to go take care of up in the Bay Area, so I missed the show. And it was supposed to start on Friday of last week. From now on, we will be at this time, Friday, 3 o'clock, every single Friday. So I just wanted you to know that. You know, I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about gratitude and how grateful I think we ought to be to live in the greatest country on this earth. Do you know that 21,000 people a day, 21,000 people a day, let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen, die from hunger every single day? 21,000. That's amazing to me. You know, 1 in 5 children in third world countries won't reach the age of 5 because of hunger or hunger-related causes. I think it's sad. And I say this because we live in this great country that allows us to be free. We don't live it is certainly not a hunger country. We make enough food, produce enough food in the San Joaquin Valley to feed the entire world. It's amazing to me that people aren't more grateful. We have a constitution that protects useful idiots that allow them to go out into the street and protest and scream and yell about things that they have no idea. Well, most of them are paid anyway. We know that. We found out that a lot of these people that you see raising sand, as my dad used to say, are paid to do so. You know, how sad is that? We found that out during the campaign and during the election. So I'm saying to these people that this great country allows to go out. Try doing that in some Mideastern country and see how far you get, you know. But we allow this because our Constitution makes it so that we're fair to everyone. Everyone is equal. And there are people that take advantage of that, and I feel that that's a shame. I am happy to announce that Gary Miguel is back with us today. Gary?
How are we doing, bud?
Gary's gonna talk to you about something very special. I don't even know what it is, but I'm excited because I know if it comes from him, it's going to be very enlightening. Gary?
Yeah, Ray, I had a very, very close, dear friend of mine just pass away.
Oh, I'm so sorry, buddy.
And he and I known each other since we were little kids.
I've got 3 friends like that.
And you know how that is.
Yeah.
In fact, we roomed together along with 2 other fellows at Fresno State.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot in common, but we had a lot that wasn't in common.
It sounds like me and my buddies.
And anyway, he was a devout Democrat, left-wing liberal,
Mm-hmm.
and which I didn't have many friends like that.
Uh-huh.
But he and I were as close as you want to get. Like probably call one another at least a couple times a month.
Yeah.
But he had a passion for sports, and so that's what was a commonality there, among other things.
Uh-huh.
Now, here's what's interesting. As liberal as he was, and left-wing and so forth, and he had a lot of friends that were that way, of course, or are that way, and then he was a school teacher, which there's a lot of those.
Yes.
But here's what's interesting. His dad and mom were Republicans. In fact, his dad was one of the Republican leaders in our area. And his sister is Republican, or sisters that I knew. Mm-hmm. And anyway, he was a big guy, heavy guy, and like I say, I knew him since we were little. And all through our lives, we did a lot of things together and went a lot of places, but we never spoke politics.
Oh, wow.
Now, it wasn't something that he said, well, let's maybe not speak politics anymore.
You just never did it.
We just never did it.
That was kind of neat.
And the other thing is, it was like an unspoken deal. We don't discuss that. But deep down, but we had the same core values as far as you know, religion and as far as family and as far as how kids should be raised and this. But you know, we shared in those core values. And like I say, he was a big guy, so his nickname for everybody was Big Dick. And just a fabulous guy. So what I'd like to do, Ray, I'd like to read a short poem.
Absolutely.
for that.
Absolutely. I
And
look forward to it, and I'm sure
and
the
it's-
audience does too.
It's a poem that I think everybody would appreciate this in terms of how they feel.
Good. Let's hear that.
And the name of the poem is written by a guy named Baxter Black. Have you ever heard that name?
No. What a name, though. Baxter Black?
He's a cowboy poet,
Oh, wow.
and he's done like in Nevada for the Western poetry and so forth. He just tremendous poet.
Okay.
And this is written by him, but I'd like to read it
Okay.
in a tribute to my friend Big Dick Batengord.
Okay. Absolutely.
Friend is a word that I don't throw around. Though it's used and abused, I still like the sound. I save it for people who've done right by me, and I know I can count on if ever need be. Some of my friends drive big limousines, own ranches and banks, and visit with queens. And some of my friends are up to their neck in overdue bills and can't write a check. They're teachers or farmers or writers of prose, and others, God bless them, can't blow their nose. I guess being friends don't have nothing to do with talent or money or knowing who's who. It's a comfortable feeling when you don't have to care about choosing your words or being quite fair. 'Cause friends will just listen and let go on by those words you don't mean and not bat an eye. It makes a friend happy to see your success. They're proud of your good side and forgive all the rest. And that ain't so easy all of the time, 'cause sometimes I get crazy and seem to go blind. Your friend just might have to take you on home or remind you sometime that you're not all alone. Or ever so gently pull you back to the ground when you think you can fly with no one around. A hug or a shake, whichever seems right, is the high point of giving, I'll tell you tonight. All worldly riches and tributes to men can't hold a candle to the worth of a friend.
You know,
For a long time, my dear friend forever, Dick Benport, and I'm so saddened about it right now.
well, I'm sad for you, buddy, and I'll tell you something. I hope all my friends are listening, and I'm sure they are because they do, and because that echoes me with them. You know,
I
It
think
really
that's a
does.
feeling that
I'm so glad you read that.
I think that's a feeling that somebody like Baxter Bag has expressed what's in the heart of everyone who's ever had a friend.
There's nothing more precious than life. You know,
There's
nothing.
right, and we can't get through it without friends.
No.
And just as the poem said, there's a special compensation or whatever you want, a disposition or whatever that you have that a friend gets by with a lot more than you do because he lets you get by with a lot more than you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Gary.
doesn't hold any
I can't.
judgment.
I couldn't begin to tell you how many of my friends have supported me throughout the years in hard times. You know, you lost a parent, you lost a sibling, and they were all there, for me. And that's priceless.
Yes, it is. And it's something to, reflect on, think about. And I wanted to read it first because I know that our show is a conservative show and it might offend some people later on, so this way they could.
Absolutely.
I'd like to respect that part of it, and this way they.
Thank you very much. Very well done. I do just tremendous. I'm still reeling from that, and I'm thinking about each one of my friends, and I've got some friends that, man, I've known them for a lifetime, and I mean, it's just you can't say enough about them,
Well, and
That was
it's like anything else. We tend to not appreciate as much as we do it, and we tend to maybe not even express it throughout an entire lifetime and saying, hey, this is what you mean to me.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I had a friend the other day come and he talked like that I've known all my life also. But he said, hey, I want to tell you this. You know, and I think that I was taken by that, and I thought, well, you know, we don't do enough of telling our friends how much we really do appreciate
No, we do not. No, we do not.
We take it for
I agree with
granted.
you.
We take it for granted.
Yeah.
And I mean, we know it's deep felt in the hearts of all.
But you don't say it.
But we
we
never
don't say it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know.
So,
You know, with that being said, I'm going to say something here. You know, and this goes out to Bob Kerr and Danny Upton. You know, Eric Starr, Dick Cranston, Ken Jones, just some guys that well, they're all my heart. You know,
Wonderful.
And I love them, and I know they love me, and they're just great, 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 great human beings.
wonderful. That's good. They're going to appreciate that.
I hope so.
So, anyway.
Well, what's happening in this political world
Oh,
of
man, I
ours?
can't keep up.
Neither can I, buddy. Neither can I.
You know, it's something that it's hard to keep up, and it's hard to really absorb the magnitude of what it really
Oh
is.
my goodness, that's
And
a good
it's so
statement.
much bigger than what we really comprehend all at once. And it's pretty interesting how it's gone down the, you know, process by process. I don't think there's ever been any president. Well, there might have been. I don't know that. But man, this guy has been taking it from every single.
I don't think that I would be willing to bet there has never been a president in the history of this country that's been battered so much. And you know what bothers me about this? What really bothers me about this, Gary, is that these people, like the people that are paid to demonstrate and have been and continue to, these people who are in such opposition to Donald Trump are fed by the media, and we know who owns the media. No.
Well, we finally found everybody's starting to recognize who owns the media.
Yeah.
And everybody is a lot less naive than they were then, even those that are opposed.
Yes.
Have gotten a wake-up call and learned a little bit more about it.
And
Yeah.
it's almost like you said when you said people are starting to wake up. Well, they're starting to wake up to this now. You're right. They're
Yeah.
starting to realize that
Well,
hey,
we're all learning. I mean, I know so much more, so do you. So
Oh,
do all of us
absolutely.
in terms of things that we never even thought about, but was affecting us adversely, and we had no clue.
I tell you, every year I'm a proud American and I'm a Republican. I went out and voted this year, and not necessarily because of this radio show. I mean, I'm so grateful for this because I'm able to inform, but even beyond that, it's just Donald Trump piqued my interest from the very beginning. When he threw his hat in the ring, that was
Yeah.
it for me. Absolutely, I knew the person I wanted to follow, and people were laughing and joking, and he was standing up there with 19 people. Well, he's standing alone right now.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the thing is, you start to get upset, and I got to thinking about that. You know, you start getting upset, and you kind of get down on people because they're not thinking right. And all
Oh,
this.
yes.
And, you know, it's easy to do. You just get so frustrated, right? But here's what I do to think about that. And I'm going to go back because I told that story here before. You have a horse that falls in a well or in a hole. And I mean, he does everything in the world to kick, bite, and frustrate everything in the world to keep you from getting him out.
He just resists. Yeah.
Now, here's the point. You know it's right to get him out, no matter how much he fights.
But he doesn't know that.
But he doesn't know that. So you get him out.
Uh-huh.
And that's the way I see it with Trump. Trump knows that these people are
That's
in
a
a
good
hole.
analogy. I love that.
He knows they're in the hole, and he's going to get them out. But they fight him all the way because they just don't know.
They just don't know.
Yeah. And it's just like I think of it because I've had this happen. A deer caught in a fence, you know. His horn's caught in there. Go over there, my God, that thing kicks and fights and does everything in the world to try to keep you away, and he's
Yeah.
stuck in the fence.
Yeah, he's the one stuck in the
Well,
fence.
what are you going to do? Well, heck, I'm going to just leave him alone and go on.
No, of course you're not.
Same thing with the people.
Yeah.
You just keep hammering away. So I sit there on that fence and my buddy, and we keep working until we finally get that deer out of there, and boom, he don't say thank you or anything.
You and I said several shows back to all these people that are protesting and going crazy and doing these really idiotic, stupid things that down the road you're going to realize that was all in vain. We didn't say it in those words. All that
That's
protest,
true.
all
That's
that
true,
stuff.
Ray.
You're going to realize all that stuff was in vain.
Well, it was done in vain, and it was done for a evil purpose, but not necessarily those people necessarily evil. They were paid to do it. They were brainwashed
Yes.
to do it. They were indoctrinated to do it.
Exactly.
They're totally out of range.
Yeah.
Let's take like Mexico as an example, because I had some real close friends of mine I have coffee with in the morning that are from Mexico here, and they got legal and they're working here. But we discussed this a little bit. But how in the world can a Mexican be against Donald Trump when one of his goals in his agreements with Mexico in terms of trade is going to be to raise the minimum wage of the Mexican people?
Oh my gosh, yeah. How
I
could
mean,
they-
what does the guy sit there and say? Well, how come your leader didn't do it? How come your president didn't? Why does it take a president from the United States to get you a raise in pay?
Good point.
I mean, how can you be against a guy like that?
You can't be against.
I mean,
a guy
you're going to
like
sit there and say, "Well, I'm sitting here at $4 a day, and that's by God, that's where I'm going to stay. I'm certainly not going to
that. Yeah,
let Trump take you away from that hole that you're in."
and that's what he's doing. You know,
And that's
right down the
exactly what
line.
he does.
Yeah.
Same thing with that deer in the fence. You're in the fence. You don't know it. You don't realize it. And I'm not going to be hard on you about that. After all, I mean, what else do you got to go by but what you've been told?
Yeah.
And what you've been told to believe, and what you think must be it, because you have no other.
That's it.
Reference.
That's all you have. You don't know
And
anything
all of a
else.
sudden, here comes along a guy that's trying to get me away from that fence, and I'm fighting him all the way. But he's doing it
Because
for,
you've been indoctrinated to fight him.
well,
Yeah,
and he's doing it for my own good. I mean, how
Yeah.
in the world are you going to? Let's say you're in Mexico and you're sitting there getting $4 a day, and all of a sudden it goes to $30 a day.
Jeez.
How in the world would you fight?
You wouldn't. You wouldn't unless
Not
you
in your
were
right
totally
mind,
insane.
you know,
Yeah.
or insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which some people are insane, even
Yes.
even though they're not clinically.
They're still crazy.
They're
Let's
so
put it-
crazy as pet coons, you know.
But I like what's going on. I heard the big thing now, of course, is Obamacare. And they just need to. And you and I've said this. They just need to leave it alone. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's see what he's going to implement. It's going to be fine. I like what Ryan said the other day. It's really going to be okay.
Well, I mean, look what you got right now is not okay. So what the hell is my? Excuse me. What's my choice?
Yeah.
If it's not okay, what is my choice when somebody comes along with something that is okay?
You don't have but one choice.
And here's the thing too about that is we are so used. When I say we, I'm also primarily including the media, including other politicians, and so forth. We are so used, or they are so used, to dealing with, interacting with, and so forth with somebody that's doing what they're doing that's good for them. In other words,
Oh yeah, that's it. That's
the-
that's
any-
the whole
any-
leftist business.
yeah, that's the whole leftist business. It's good for them.
Yeah.
This is the first time since I know we can go way back that there is a person who's he's not a politician, but there's a person that's been elected that the only reason he's elected, the only reason he's in there is to do something for the people.
Exactly. Donald
Not-
Trump doesn't need anything for
Because
himself.
he doesn't need anything.
He doesn't need anything.
And so if he's in there, well, then why is he running? There's only one reason for him to be running. That's because what he wants to do is good for the people.
You and I said a long time ago.
Right.
He took a look at everything. He took the look at the dismal direction this country was going, and looked around. He couldn't find anybody else to do it. He said, "You know what? I'm going to do
Yeah,
this."
he didn't want to do it.
No, Donald Trump should be sitting back on. If I was Donald Trump, I'd be on my yacht someplace
Well,
in the
in fact-
Bahamas, in the South Seas, somewhere.
A guy told me one time, I said, well, Donald Trump doesn't want to run for president. Well, my God, he said so I don't know how many times. I've heard him.
Yes, I
No,
have
he
too.
didn't, but he has no choice.
He had no choice.
That's it.
You
It's
know,
just
and
that.
and we all say the same. Thank goodness he did.
Well, sure, because he's let's include ourselves if you wish. He's getting us away from that entanglement we found ourselves in the fence.
Yes.
Now,
Oh, we're definitely headed for the fence. There wasn't any doubt
well,
about
I mean, heck, we're already in the fence.
that. I think you're right, Gary. I think we're already
I
in
mean,
the fence.
let's be kind, or truthful, or candid, maybe. But we were all in that fence, and
Yeah.
Well, some of us, it's pretty easy to get us out because
Yeah.
we sit there and just stand there and let them take us out,
Yeah.
right? But boy, so they fight and fight.
They're still fighting.
Oh,
They're
they're still
still fighting.
fighting, and they'll fight till their dying day. But it won't be on the fence if they allow Trump to do what he.
Just let him do what he
They
said he
won't
would
die
do.
on the fence if they allow Trump to take him
That's
out
right.
of it. Well, they don't allow him; he has to take him out.
Yeah.
They don't even know enough to allow
No,
him, so
no,
they just stay in the
they don't.
fence.
They just stay in the fence. Gary, we're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back, folks, and let's say 2 and 2. Okay, I'm back here with Gary Miguel, and we're discussing what we discuss every single week, and just Donald Trump, and we're asking people to please. Oh, by the way, let me say this. Yeah, I'm live right now. If you feel like calling in, please call in. Talk to either Gary or I. We're here to try to inform you. That's what we do every week. So if you feel like calling in, please do. We welcome all calls. Gary?
Well, you mentioned something earlier about are there people waking up? You know,
Yeah.
And you can't expect that to happen overnight because it's not going to.
Yeah, he's just in there.
Little by little, it's shrinking and shrinking in terms of the liberal left
Good.
hysteria. But I think it's going to go on all along because those.
Well, there's always going to be useless idiots.
Well, there's going to be useful idiots, or you call them useless idiots.
Useless, yeah, I love that term.
And those people are necessary for these people who do control things, and that Trump is absolutely going to do away with.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's going to be a lot of battle there right on through. And but the people are starting to wake up. It's getting less and less and less in terms of maybe they're starting to apply a little common sense.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it is. It's common sense or lack thereof. And but I think it's a slow process. But you'll notice that Trump keeps giving. He gave a rally the other day.
Yes.
And he keeps saying the same things because he understands the power of repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, if you say it long enough, it'll finally sink in. And I read the other day where right now, if they were to have a revote, that anywhere from 15 to 20% of those who voted for Hillary would now vote for Trump.
You know what? I heard almost the same thing.
Did you?
Almost, yeah, almost verbatim. That's interesting to me.
Well, that tells you something also, you know, and it just keeps a few more. And I see this on these different sites I go to, and people will say, boy, man, I used to be a Democrat, or I used to be this, and I finally, I guess.
Woke up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
woke up, you know, or reborn, or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. So, yeah, it's going to be a slow, long process, but they're not used to this. And I mean, down to the man is not used to having somewhere or someone, for instance, like the Obamacare you mentioned, or any or tax deal. And, I mean, we got the most brilliant people that this country's ever had in place that's putting together these programs right now. That's
Yeah.
fabricating what we're doing, you know, and fabricating what we're going to have. And man, we're talking about brilliant people, the best there is, like Trump said he'd get. Well, he plus he's
that's
got
what
advisors,
that's what he's
right?
doing. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, come on. You got some one of those people say something about the plan or something, and you got some snowflake sitting there with a sign hollering up and down.
Exactly.
Now who's competent and who's
Yeah.
incompetent?
Yeah.
Our problem with government has been we've filled it up with incompetent people.
Absolutely.
see.
Absolutely. This is the first time we're going to get some competent people.
Well, you know, you're
10
not
of them
going to
that-
get competent people if you keep going back to the same
No.
source, you know, and
The problem is never is never solved at the level that caused the problem.
and he's going there. His people they've been, you know, they've been slow to start because they've been drugged by who? By Congress.
Of course.
Okay, why are they dragging it? Because they don't care about the American people. They're dragging it because what they're going to lose.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, you know, so then common sense. Let's put some common sense to it. Then okay, I'm a diehard Democrat, been fighting you all the way. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I get to the point, man, Ray, it become pretty obvious to me that these people that I'm sitting there championing, they're really just for themselves. They're not for me. There's only one person that
And
can say
now all
otherwise.
of a sudden, good point. Now all of a sudden, you've got people in there that can't be bought, like Donald Trump,
Right.
and like the people he's appointing that don't need anything.
Right.
My goodness, you can't see how much better this is for the country.
Well, now
know?
you got competency instead of incompetency.
Absolutely. Good,
That's the
good
difference.
term.
And the draining of that swamp can't go soon enough, fast enough. But boy, is that a big one to drain.
Oh, it is.
I mean,
that's
it's
why
a-
you said, like you said earlier, it's not going to happen overnight.
It's like the Atlantic Ocean, and the more he gets into it, the deeper that swamp is. You know.
I want to talk to you about something that, and I was going to call you up and talk to you about it, but now I've got you on the show live. Let's talk about something live that I'm interested in, and that's that idiot dictator over in North Korea and what he's doing and what the talks about that, because you were a fighter pilot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day, for curiosity, I decided to Google the top military powers in the country. We are number 1. Russia's number 2. China's number 3. Surprisingly enough, India is number 4. Now,
That surprises me.
huh?
That does surprise me.
I was shocked. I had to look at it again.
Yeah.
They were number 4. They're a pretty powerful country. And what amazes me is that a country that only has 8 million people, Israel, is in the top 10. What a powerful nation they are to be as small as they are. You know?
Well, I've always said that as far as fighter pilots go, there is no finer fighter pilots than the Israeli fighter pilots.
I've heard that too. Now, weren't they trained by us? Didn't you guys train these people?
You know, we may have at one time, but I did run across. We were trained at the time I was going through Nigerians,
Yeah.
and a lot of Iranians,
Yeah.
and they're Jordanians and Germans.
Look, this is just my idea. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong. I talked to Sandra about that today. I had to go by her house, and she fed me some wonderful lamb. Thank you, sweetheart. And it was absolutely wonderful. I'm still thinking about that. Anyway, and I told her when I was there that, you know, in regards to, I think North Korea is being so bold. I mean, you got this little pissant country,
Right.
and they're being so bold because they really think in the back of their minds that they may get some backing from China. Is there any validity to that?
Well, yeah, that's a game being played. I don't fully understand it.
I know.
Because according to Trump, China can control and does control
North Korea.
So-
Yes.
So, there's a method to the madness going on there. But I want to say we kind of skipped over that Israeli pilot.
Yeah.
And here's the difference. When you're 18 years old, you start, if you want to be a fighter pilot for Israel, well, you start the process at 18.
Oh my gosh.
We don't start till we're like 21 or 22
Oh,
after we
this-
graduate college.
These guys are 4 years up.
You said a mouthful. Let me tell you what is so important. We've been so brainwashed with the idea that you have to have college to do anything. That is the biggest rip-off scam
You've
that we
said
got
that
going
before,
in
and I
the-
believe you.
And I could give you story after story, even recently.
Yeah.
But you take this Israeli pilot, he starts at 18, and he goes through the training just like the rest of us, only I started at 22. Let's say 21,
Yeah.
okay? So 4 years.
So 25 years old, you were a pilot, so or something like that.
So, but I'm 4 years behind this Israeli pilot.
Yeah.
He's been flying for 4 years, and I'm just now becoming a combat ready. I'm just now been designated combat ready.
You're a rookie.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Okay, so I go to a squadron. In this case, I'm with Fresno. But anyway, you go to a squadron, and then you're combat ready, right? Now try to compare that with my counterpart, Israeli, who's been flying for 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'm a bug in the sky
yeah.
compared to what he's doing.
No wonder
Right.
they're such great pilots. They start
That's-
early.
that's it.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Now, if you take, let's go ahead. Now I'm, 28 years old, let's say. How many years have I been flying? Well, Ray, I've been flying 6 years. I've gotten pretty dang good at
This
it.
other guy's been flying 10.
There you go.
Cease.
They can't whoop an Israeli. You give him the equipment, and he's going to be that much ahead of you.
What do you think's going to happen? I mean, I know you don't have a crystal
I mean, we're
ball.
talking in general as a
Yeah,
whole.
yeah.
We have individual pilots.
Yeah.
Because
I heard Tillerson say this morning, and I think it was an offshoot on Outnumbered, one of my favorite shows. I try to watch that if I'm not at work. And anyway, and I think if I'm not mistaken, he said we're at the point where if things don't cease, there's going to be military retribution, and that was not his words. No, I'm not quoting this, but basically that's what I'm saying. He's saying.
I saw that
without
too.
saying it. Yeah.
What I think where Trump is trying to get to is he's trying to get it to where he can somehow put enough influence or pressure or something with China so that they can control.
They'll control them.
They'll control North Korea, and I think he's trying all he can to do that because I mean you talk about a country that just absolutely, I don't know how many people there are. There aren't that many.
Yeah.
And you talk about a way of life that is totally opposite of anything we could even imagine.
Oh, yes.
I mean, they're totally censored.
Yeah.
And it's so austere, and they're in constant hunger, like you mentioned that earlier. And
there's North Korea. They've got people starving over there on a daily basis.
well, you got a country there that's being run by a bona fide lunatic. I mean, if anybody can kill his own brother, kill his uncle. He fed his uncles to the hogs and stuff like that.
Look at this idiot. I mean, I think he's the most dangerous man in the world. I really do.
I think you're right.
I think he's certainly one of them, if he's not the.
Well, if he ever wanted to be the most dangerous person in the world, then he certainly has achieved that part.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is.
Yeah.
And
too much power for an idiot.
That's too much power for an idiot, so the idiot has to be taken out of there.
Yeah.
But I think what Trump's trying to do is get that done by pressuring China to actually do the getting him out of there somehow.
I got to tell you something. I've been wanting to tell you this for a long time. I'm going to tell it right now. But you remember, I know you remember the Godfather, especially the Godfather 2.
Yeah.
When Michael Corleone was at his sister's son's baptismal, and he's wiping out everybody. And I thought about that the other day. I thought Trump ought to be in Florida someplace, and we ought to be taking care of North Korea, ISIS, all these people on the same day. Just establish ourselves as the most powerful, which we are, the most powerful country in the world. After World War II, it was like, who wanted to mess with us? Nobody did. No one did.
Well, what do you see on your media? What do they carry? Are they carrying anything about what's going on in ISIS? I have to go into the internet.
Oh,
and
yeah, no.
You don't hear anything.
No, you don't. I haven't heard anything in weeks now.
Now we've got something major going on right now with the ISIS in Mosul and some other countries.
Yeah.
We have something major going on right now in the.
We're pushing them right out of Mosul.
With the eventual formation of a key Arab Mideast peace deal among, believe it or not, Israel and Palestine. Mm-hmm. I think nobody ever dreamed something like that, even thought of.
No.
Now, think about this. Do you read or hear anything about that on TV?
No, you don't.
From the media?
No.
And you want to be an informed American, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it all you hear is Meals on Wheels?
That we heard yesterday.
That's all you hear.
Yeah.
How come you're not hearing about something that's substantial?
Yeah.
It's because that they media still insists on treating us like idiots.
Absolutely, Gary.
Now, yes, go to the snowflakes and there's the idiots.
Sure.
Right? The useless idiots you talk about. Mm-hmm. But my God, how about the other 80% of Americans that aren't idiots? Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to sit there and think that we're satisfied with hearing news tonight about Meals on Wheels when we're talking about North Korea?
You know how substantial that'd be, what you just said about all those countries uniting? Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
That's a process going on right now. Trump said, and he's not making any promises, he said, I'm going to try it. I don't know if I'll be successful, but I am going to give it
an attempt.
An attempt. And so what we have now is we had the Saudi Arabian prince come over. Mm-hmm. We've had Netanyahu of Israel come over.
Yes.
He's going to have the Palestinian come over. He's going to also have Egypt's
How about Jordan? And Jordan.
The Jordanian.
Yeah.
He's a powerful leader.
Very powerful.
But I'll tell you, the key powerful leader there in terms of the Arabs is the leader, I can't pronounce his last name, but anyway, the leader of Egypt.
Oh, yes. I can't either.
But that guy is
very powerful.
He's a key to the Mideast, some kind of a settlement.
If he does this will be the closest to world peace this country's ever seen.
Well, if he does this, it's beyond brilliant, But he knows how to do it slowly.
Yeah.
And he's going through it. But he knows he can't do anything with anyone nor can anyone do anything with anyone unless they get rid of ISIS.
Yeah.
And believe me, they're getting rid of ISIS.
I know they are.
I
know they are. And just like he said, there were Tillerson was talking about that a couple of weeks ago on an interview, and it's just amazing. I mean, they're doing things we don't know about. And what I love about is what he said and what they said on Fox. They're not out here making these big announcements. Why would they do that? Just get it done. And that's what they're doing. The American people don't have to know everything.
Ray,
just
you
get
gotta
the thing
go,
done.
You got to go somewhere to find out something. In terms of you yourself trying to find something out, you got to go dig down,
Yes.
which is fine. I'm okay.
I don't have any problem with that at all.
But what also gives me some kind of a chuckle is the fact that, boy, if you want to know something that's important to you tonight, you tune in to our news program tonight. And we're going to talk about, we got some guests here with wheels on wheels.
My goodness.
And we're supposed to be all
They don't
excited.
have anything better to do except, talk about this.
I've been watching their press conference. So Spicer has a press conference. I've been watching it.
Yeah, I try to catch him in the morning.
And
see
I
if
tell you
like
what I
it.
come up with. I says, why do they even have this? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing, when they're done, there really is nothing out of there.
that's true. It's
And
very
there's
true.
I've never learned anything I didn't know already. In fact, what I do learn every single time, just how stupid these people really are.
Yeah.
And you got to ask yourself, well, how in the world are they getting that? Is that what you got to do to get in that? Man, I tell you what, there's a
I
lot.
better go down there right now.
Well, there's a lot of people qualified.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them.
And but we have to look at the competence level, and we can make it. We could go on piece by piece, comparison by comparison. But let's just start with number one. The number one is President of the United States today, Donald Trump, who has built from nothing billions and billions and billions, tens of thousands of people employed.
Yes.
At a tax, he pays a tax bill that we'd only dream of someday ever having, or don't even dream
Just
of. Having.
amazing, yeah.
Okay, now that's the competence you have there as the head of our country. Let's compare that to the competence of the guy that just left. Do you know that he would not qualify on a resume for manager of a McDonald's?
Oh my gosh. I'm not surprised.
Well, I'm telling you serious.
No,
If
I'm
you go-
I'm
yeah.
not surprised at that. Not at all.
Yeah, if he went straight down and applied, he just come off the street, apply for a job at McDonald's, he wouldn't start as manager. Now, that's who we had running the country, a guy that couldn't qualify as manager of McDonald's, and we've got a guy now running for who is president, who's built billions all over the world,
And continues to.
and continues to have this whole operation gone. And now we have that kind of competency compared to the guy that can't get a job at McDonald's as a manager.
That's a person I won't run in this country.
Now, we're not talking about as a CEO or something. We're talking about manager.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's a competence level that we're going from A to B. Yeah, there's a big difference.
You're darn right.
And
there
it
is.
takes people maybe a while to absorb it. There's people that sit there and says, "Oh, I don't understand that," and there's people that sit there and say, "Ain't going fast enough."
That's true. Both
Why don't we
sides.
just? You're still holding them horses back. He's got a bunch of them back there. And our own
Yeah.
Congress, our own officials that we elect, is what? They're holding the reins on them. And those are supposed to be people working for us.
Yeah.
What happened to the people that are supposed to be working for us? What are they working for then? They're working for themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. You and I talked on
And
this
the
show
press doesn't have
before about the power of we the people. If we could ever
Right.
get back to the thing intended by our
Well,
founding fathers.
the press cannot handle that. You know,
No.
some guy sits over there and I says, "Well, hold on, time out."
Yeah.
I says, "Now who's working for who? You know, is this guy working for himself? Because that's the way it's designed." What do you think? We have waste in this government like you can't believe.
Oh, my goodness.
And we have people employed that are part of the waste, and you can't blame them, right?
Yeah.
So why are they so surprised all of a sudden to find out they're not needed? Well, they never were needed.
No.
But they were put in there, and that's part of the bureaucracy that grows that ends up controlling you and I's lives. And if I wanted to go talk to somebody and go through it line by line to see what regulations and so forth is done for him, all I need to do is go out there to Ray's Trailer Park and let you explain to me.
Excellent, excellent, buddy, excellent.
And you'll go down the list.
Uh-huh.
And if we get tired of that, let's go talk to a dairyman. And we get tired of that, let's go talk to a guy that's manufacturing boxes at the box company.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
And let's go through all the regulations.
Yeah,
Now, who's working for who?
yeah.
Who comes out there? The bureaucrat.
Sure they do.
Yeah. It's government. Why? Because they have a job. I had, every year I start apricots. And every year they have to check the water, you know, check this safety, check this, check that, you know, the whole thing prior. Make sure I have everything there, right? Well, okay, that's fine. I'll go on with it. But why do they send 7 pickups at 7 different times? Why
See
don't-
how useless. What a waste. What
well,
a tremendous
number
waste.
one, I'd sit there and I'd say, well, why is it that you don't check the water while you're checking this, my commodes that they got toilet paper?
Uh-huh.
Why don't you check the water while you're at? Oh, I'm not certified for that.
Oh yeah, we got a guy that's you got to be certified to come out
That
and
was
check,
the
yeah.
whole thing. It was
See.
certification. You got to be certified. I says, well, why don't you just get one guy and get him certified? Because it's not. You don't have to be a mental giant to do any of what you're doing.
You know what you remind me of is you remember the movie Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
You
sure.
ever see, I love that movie. When Morgan Freeman goes up for parole and he's sitting there, and so the guy asked him, he says, "Do you think you've been rehabilitated?" And he said, "Oh, let me see, rehabilitated." And the guy interrupts him and says, he says, "That means," and he says, "Look, Sonny, I know what it means." He says, "But my definition of this is it's just a made-up word so that a young college man like you can have a job."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about.
That's what
you
I'm
know?
talking about. I mean, 7 of them, 7
Yeah.
trucks. They come out each one.
Isn't
with
that
a-
ridiculous?
Now, and we're talking about a 30-mile drive out to where I had this ranch.
Yeah.
Okay, from anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get to thinking about how does that bureaucrat feel when he's going to? Doesn't he see just how mundane he really is?
Really, he's got to.
I mean, doesn't he feel worthless?
Yeah.
But by God, no, they build this up. They got it built up, but I'm useful, but it's useless like your word.
Yeah.
And my God, I got this much to go till retirement, and that's all they talk about.
They give you a shiny new white Ford F-150 pickup
Yeah.
to drive. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and they buy 7 of them when they could have bought one.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they're or just one. All
You
they
know,
need was one.
Trump's
guy.
talked about going through this and taking a really good look at all this waste. I can't, and I've heard some figures, Gary, and you're probably more familiar with them than I am. It is just, it's into the billions.
Well,
It's amazing to me.
well, here's what it is. It's he'd like to cut it 25% at the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 25%. Now just take the total and take it times 25%, and that gives you the dollar number.
Gee. Oh, my goodness.
But here's the thing. Let's just make it more realistic. We can take 30% of all the government, and they're gone. Let's just say you wake up in the morning and they're all gone. You'll never notice the difference. They were even there to begin with.
I bet you're right.
Well, I know you're.
That makes sense.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You go down to any kind of a government agency and see what that's all about. I don't care to go get well, how many times do you have to go down and get permits and this and that?
Oh, my gosh.
We're going to use a real example,
Yeah.
which is the refineries.
Yeah.
This country has a refinery shortage, not a production shortage.
Yeah, I understand they haven't built one, in this state in 30, 40 years, something like that?
And we've had 11 refineries that we had in the 70s, let's say. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they gone and not replaced? In fact, one in my hometown of Hanford, as an example. And I've seen them in Midland, Michigan, and so forth. Why are they gone and not replaced? It's because of the regulations is such that if you and I started today and said we're starting today to build a refinery, by the time we got through all of the red tape, if you will, it would take 30 years for us to start.
Oh, my goodness.
To have a refinery gone. We're not going to do that.
No.
So we just shut it down, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So what they have now is fewer and fewer refineries, and they're under tremendous regulation control. I got a friend of mine that's manager of one, and he says, you won't believe what it takes to run that refinery. And when we shut it down, well, that's why the gas price went up. Why?
Sure.
Well, you get fewer and fewer. We have twice as many people with half as many refineries.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
Not at all.
Hasn't increased the capacity. So when Trump comes along, he just started one in Louisiana. Instead of it taking 30 years, he's got it cut down to where it only takes 6.
Oh my gosh.
Now take that percentage-wise.
That's 1/5.
Yeah. Think about that. Now think about the people working in government today that are duplicating one another and so forth. Okay, it won't get to that, but we would probably work best and most efficient at about 30% of what we have today.
Oh my gosh. So that's 70% waste right there, right?
If he can get
Basically,
it
that's
down
what
to 60%
Yeah.
of what it is right now, he's doing darn good. But in reality, you say, well, we're going to lose this. You'd never notice it. I wouldn't notice
No.
it. The average person would never. In fact, what we are going to notice is maybe you're able out there and do your mobile park the way it should be and the way you know it should
Without
be.
all the regulations.
Yeah, so then you get to be more efficient, not less
Yes.
efficient.
Yeah. Oh, it's just unbelievable. Yeah.
So I think that you're going to see a lot of what we all know now to be fake news of people who are going to be objecting to all of this stuff because they are looking out for who?
Yeah.
Themselves.
Themselves. It's just amazing to me how, I started actually the mobile home business about 11 years ago, and the regulations have just went more and more every single year, things that don't make sense at all, and I've got to give you this example. I sold a mobile home about, 5 or 6 years ago to this guy in Tulare. And he worked at a cheese factory down there. I guess I didn't know that. Maybe it's Kraft, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a big cheese factory.
Big cheese, and he was pretty much up the hill. So he came in, and he paid me cash for the mobile home. Real nice guy, Hispanic guy. About 2 months later, he was using it as a rental on his property. He has 28 acres way out in the country, and he has a home on it, and the mobile home on it that I just sold him. And he said, Ray, this is working out pretty good for me for a rental. I think I'd like to come back and buy another one from you. And I said, okay. I had about 18 at the time. So he came through, looked at it, picked out the one he wanted. He said, now I'm going to go up to Bank of America, come back, give you a cashier's check, and we can get the process started, and I'll go get permits, And so he did, and he came back, and he bought it. About a week later, he called me up, and he said, Ray, I don't expect you to give me my money back, which I did. He's a great customer. He's sending me people sent. He said, you know that I went to the county, Tulare County, to get a permit, and they told me that I could only put a single wide there. Couldn't put another double wide. And I'm thinking, who is it that comes up with this? Who decides that it's okay to put a single wide there, but you can't put a double wide there?
Isn't that ridiculous?
I thought, oh my gosh, my father would have blown his hat off if somebody told him what he had to do with his land, because they were old school, real old school.
Well,
it just amazes me that we have this regulation.
Well, there were a lot of people that were like your dad. My dad was the same way, and of course the whole thing. But they were. I look back on it, and they were happy people.
Oh, of course they were. I agree.
Well, the reason they were happy because there was nobody telling them at the time to be unhappy.
Yeah.
And what we have is a mass amount of indoctrination, propaganda coming out of this media, and
they come on your property and give you rules about your property that you own that you're making payments on, and that's ridiculous in this country.
Well, it's coming to a halt. At least
is
a slow down, but it's going to take a while to swing the ship. Let's something I think we both understand. For the last 30, 40 years, the emphasis has been on Wall Street, which is paper.
Yeah.
Right? In other words, agreements, the shuffling of paper, right? And we get rich because of paper. Okay, the other part of the economy, or the old economy, was what they call Main Street economy, which you get rich by producing something. One thing you produce, paper, Wall Street, the other one, production. Trump is in the process of de-emphasizing the Wall Street financial and going to
Main Street.
Okay, now there's two economies there. This economy has been neglected for the last 40 years.
Yes.
To the tune of 60,000 factories moved out of the country.
Not amazing. That's
Now,
just,
who got rich with that?
Oh, Wall Street, of
Well,
course.
the paper, because
Yeah.
because okay, got the factory over there, in so wherever Mexico building this, and I'm selling them here. Boy, it's okay now. There's an emphasis change, and where you could see this if you work with the market at all. Janet Yellen just raised interest rates 0.25%. The stock market barely bubbled. I'm telling you, Ray. Prior to Trump, had she said she rated 0.25%, why that market would have gone down and
Yes.
still be going down.
Yeah. Spiraling.
So what does it tell you? It's telling you that no longer is the emphasis so
On
much-
Wall Street. Yeah.
and well, what's that 0.25% produce? What are you producing? Well, I'm building a factory. What do you put? Widgets. I'm going to make these widgets. Everybody wants one, needs one.
Yeah.
So that's my point as far as there's a shift. It's going to take a while. But mainstream comes more back into it. Well, who is Main Street anyway?
You
It's
and
the
I.
a-
And
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the average American
The average
person.
American. You and I. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
We're
you
Main
and I
Street.
and everybody else should be along.
Absolutely.
Right? Who's Wall Street? Okay, the established elite
The elite. Yes.
and the corrupt and the crooked. Oh, we don't have to go any further than Hillary
No.
Clinton to get examples of that.
No, we do not.
I mean, if this isn't
George Soros. Yeah.
but that's right. But if this isn't evidence of guilt, is all of a sudden you start a foundation while you're Secretary of State and it grows to hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars, and the day you're not President or Secretary of State, it dried up.
Yeah.
How come you were getting $200, $400, $700,000 a speech, and now you
can't get a nickel.
can't get a nickel? Now, if that isn't tell you, if that
Oh, you're
isn't
doggone
evidence,
right. It
what
does.
is?
It does tell you. And we're kind of winding down here. It looks like. And before we close, I need to ask you if you'll come
Yeah,
back.
sure,
And
come
I
back.
want to remind everybody that please remember we're on Fridays now at 3 o'clock every Friday. Starting today is our first day. And so tune in every Friday at 3 instead of Thursdays at 4. We're at 3. Gary's going to be back with us next week.
Well, here's the thing, Ray. You know, you're buying dinner tonight, and then it's my turn, so I got to come back and repay you.
I love it, buddy. I love it. We have such a good, Gary sends me, and I tell you this all the time, he sends me unbelievable stuff. I mean, it's just, and he just came up with it today, and I think it's a good idea. I've saved everything, and I'm going to continue to. And when it gets too full, I'm going to find a way to save all this stuff, and so because he sends me stuff almost on a daily basis, and it's like, it's better than any newspaper you ever read. It's so informative, and what I'd like to do is take some of Gary's stuff and start compiling and maybe dedicate a show to some of your things, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Because it's
Yeah.
wonderful stuff.
Well, we'll
and
just see how much of it turned out true and how much of it didn't and how much of it.
a whole bunch of it's already turned out
You
true.
know,
You
so-
talked, by the way, you talked not too long ago about, today in fact, I think, that how much a lot of stuff we said turned out later
Right.
in the media. I
here-
love that.
Well, of course, it's stuff that's there, but a lot of that stuff was, we said it first before you heard it. In the media.
Exactly.
Not that it wasn't there, it's just they didn't want to say it.
Yeah, they didn't want to say it. I love that. I love that. You
I
heard
mean,
it.
I'm
you-
not sitting there saying, oh, yeah, it was there.
I can truly say you heard it first on Voices Not Yet Heard.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love
thinking,
that.
my God, we got the power of 3C flashlight batteries and a coat hanger. And a tape.
Boy, we are cowboys, believe me. Conservative, Republican cowboys, but we are cowboys. Anyway, as I do every week, I'd like to end this show by talking about our law enforcement officers. We lost a couple other ones again this week, and these are people that won't be sitting down with their children for Easter and celebrating Easter and just coming home every night, and it's so sad to me. So that this is happening. So please, when you're out there and you see a policeman, you see a law enforcement officer, interrupt him. Go up if he's sitting in his car and just tell him how much we appreciate what they do for such little pay, and such little gratitude. I want everybody to please do this. I do it on a daily basis. I must say not every day because I don't see one every day, but every day that I see one, I make sure that I go up and stick out my hand and say thank you for what you do. We appreciate them. we can't get along without them, and they're great young men and women who are helping to keep us safe, and I appreciate that. So until we meet joyously again next Friday, by the way, Friday at 3 o'clock, heaven's blessings.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt